Hi, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace. Today we're going to build the Protege. This is the 2018-2019 catapult glider offering from J&H Aerospace for the Science Olympiad Elastic Launch Glider event. Features a carbon fuselage, foam wing flaps, and so on, so it's optimized for low ceiling flying. So we hope that you'll enjoy this airplane. If you're building it for AMA competition, it's a very good beginner's intro for standard class catapult glider for low ceiling events, gymnasiums and whatnot. So follow along on the build, and we hope you enjoy it. First, we're going to start with our parts inventory. So inside your kit, you have enough materials to build 3 of these. I've only got one boom handy here, so your kit should have 3 of these. So you have, before we even look at the rest of the parts, you have your parts list. You have a 3 view for the airplane. Gives all of your dimensions, so if you run out of materials or something, you have to replace something, it's all there. And then you have patterns for all of the parts for the airplane with grain directions and so on. As I said, you should have 3 of these carbon fuselage booms. They are sized, ready to go. You can taper sand them to take some weight off the airplane, but otherwise they're ready to go. You'll have 1 set of dihedral gauges, have a rubber band for your catapult and your catapult handle. Have some clay for your nose weight. And we will have 3 sets of wing flaps. That's 1/32 Depron foam. Set those over there. You'll have 3 sets of tail surfaces. This also includes your nose side plates and your wing tips. And then you have 3 sets of wing forward panels, pylons, catapult hook. I believe that, yeah, that's everything on there. So we're only going to build 1 here, and so let me set some things aside and we'll get started. Okay, before we get started here, something that you need to know. You're going to need a specific type of glue for your flaps. This is Yoo-Hoo Pour. You can order this off of Amazon. It takes a few days to get here from England. Alternatively, there's a product called Foam Tack that I think is usually available at Hobby Lobby. Of course, you can order it online. And I think fabric cement may also work. But what you're going to use that for is for attaching these wing flaps, because you cannot use super glue or anything like that to attach those, because it will dissolve them. For the rest of our build, though, we're going to use standard good old-fashioned CA super glue cyanoacrylate cement. What I have here is Extreme Power, whatever. This is Hobby Lobby's brand. Personally, I recommend Mercury adhesives. I just don't have any of theirs right now because I ran out of it. But they have very, very good glue. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out these wing panels, and you should just be able to release them by going around here to these tabs. So you're going to line these up like so. You're not going to join them for a while yet because we've got a lot more to do. I'll pop out our wing tips. Now, important thing to note, the wing tips are about half as thick as these panels. So that's going to play an important role here in a little bit. So what you want to do is come in here and spread some CA glue on here. We're building over wax paper so that we don't get this stuck to the table or anything. And we're going to just take this wingtip. You've got this little cornered end that goes back here. Sharp end goes up front, and we just want to line this up. So we're pressing both of these down flat against the table, so you have a ridge here, if you will. And that's got that one. And now we'll do the other one. Make sure that you do this as a mirror image so that you end up with two different wings and not two right wings or two left wings. Then your plane will not fly as well. Again, just line it up with the leading edge here. And there we go. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to shape this wing out a little bit before we attach the wing flaps. So this is actually going to be the bottom surface of the wing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this as a razor plane. You can use sandpaper for this. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away that extra material out here so that this feathers in very smoothly. A lot of guys are real concerned about proper airfoil on these airplanes. I personally am not. Oops, and watch out for things like that. And now we'll come in here and we will sand that nice and flat, well, smooth I should say, so that it feathers in real nice. Now I apologize for if you hear crying in the background. I have a 2.5 week, almost 3-week-old son who is not pleased with the world, but at least we know he has a very healthy set of lungs. Alright, so now that's got your bottom side of your wings done. Flip these over. I'm going to come up here on the leading edge. Actually, what I'm going to do is inboard of here, I'm actually going to taper this down a little bit and try to get myself a nice airfoil. You don't need much. And in fact, okay, that's good. Good. I will say the wings on this airplane are much stronger than they need to be, so you can, as long as you don't sand through, you're not going to hurt anything. Because the main thing we're trying to do here is we're just trying to get rid of extra material on this wing. Side benefit is that we end up with a real nice streamlined profile. So we've tapered down that side. Now we're going to come over to this one. We're going to do the same thing in the other direction. If you don't have one of these Stanley planes, you can also just use the sanding block. Just take your time, make sure you don't sand through anything, and you'll be good. But these are real cheap. They're like, I don't know, $7 off of Amazon. I will say, if you've not used a razor plane before, make sure that you try it out on a few test pieces before you try it on your wings, because you can take away too much material before you even realize it. Alright, so we've got that. I want to clean off this wingtip over here. So, again, this is our top surface. You may actually want to put some marks so you know your top and bottom on these. And now, we've got a lot of thick material back here, so I'm going to take one swipe. I'm flipping this over onto the underside. I'm just going to take a quick swipe down here, try and take off a little bit of extra material here too. And we'll flip this one over as well, do the same thing on it. And then you can just sand that. Don't thin this down anymore because flaps themselves are fairly thick and you want them to fare in nicely. So all we're doing is just smoothing it out a little. And so we'll set those aside for a minute. Next, you have your flaps here, and you notice the surfaces are different on these. I recommend not sanding the really shiny side. It's easier to get this rough side, I think, personal opinion. These, due to the nature of this material, chances are you are going to have to go and cut all the way around on these flaps. And that is because our laser tends to melt rather than burn the foam. So if we try to melt all the way through, it generally makes the flaps unusable. So what we have resorted to doing is saying you're going to have to slide all the way around and cut these out. But at least they are scored almost completely through by the laser. Alright, so now we have two flaps here. This material is a lot heavier than you might think, and so you're going to want to sand it down fairly aggressively. And what I am going to do is, and I'm actually sanding the wrong side of that. The long edge is where you want to sand. And so I am just going to go back and forth on this, because you want to taper this trailing edge down to where it's almost paper thin. And we'll come back once I've got that done on both sets of flaps. Okay, now we have the wing flaps sanded very thoroughly. I even sanded the fronts around a little bit just to try to get some extra weight off, because you don't need that extra material. And also let your flaps flex a little more, which is kind of the purpose of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our first wing here, we're going to flip it over, we're going to take the Yoo-Hoo pour here, and we are just going to run a thin, very thin bead of this all the way around. Now, optimally, you give this quite some time to dry. This stuff dries fairly hard, which gives you a good lockup. That's why I prefer it over the foam tack, which stays a little more flexible. But I have it there. I try to keep this on a fairly level plane. And actually, best if you weigh it down. The flaps actually acquire a natural curve by you sanding the top of them. And that's something I should mention, the sanded side of the flaps goes on the top. And then we just slide, if I can not be a clumsy mess, just slide this one in as well. Make sure it is secured well out there at the tip, otherwise you will have flutter on launch. Nobody wants flutter on launch. That breaks very nice airplanes to pieces. Alright. So we've got those. Hopefully they'll dry in fairly short order. So we'll come back in a second. Alright, we're still waiting on those to dry, so while we're waiting, I'm going to put this away too. We'll go work on our tail surfaces. Now again, due to the nature of this airplane, sand as much off of these tail surfaces as you can stomach sanding, because they are definitely thicker than what you really need. Be very careful doing what I'm doing here, razor planing the tail surfaces, just because this is very thin material, and you see right there I managed to cut through it in spite of my best efforts. Okay, maybe it wasn't my best effort. Maybe I did it so y'all could see what happens. And then just sand it down. Now, one thing you will notice is that these slots for the rudder are actually offset a little bit. So, we'll just sand this down free-handed. There is such a thing as too thin on your tail surfaces, but the operative thing to remember is that any weight off of the tail is weight you don't have to put on the nose for ballast. And the lighter the extremities of your airplane are, the better it will snap into its glide at the top. We've got a nice thin rudder here. And now, so my rudder is going to end up on the right side of the fuselage, because I am right-handed, and so I normally fly these airplanes to the right. So we'll stick this guy in here, and whatever you do, don't use quite as much CA as I did, because that's tremendously unnecessary weight. Now, your carbon boom, particularly if you get one of the early kits from us, is going to be a little bit thicker than this, and so you're going to want to actually pick one end that's going to be your tail and sand it down. And this is going to create a lot of carbon dust like that, so go outside and do this and sand it till it's real thin back here. It is hollow, so don't sand through. Okay, and we're back. One thing I do want to show you is if you're very careful, you can actually take a razor blade and can peel off. This one's not wanting to go. There we go. Make sure I'm not going through. You can actually peel off a strip of carbon. You can run basically all the way back down this carbon fuselage. Now, be careful about this because you can weaken it too much. But it's just something, if you're having trouble taking enough material off, this is another option for you. If I'm wanting to, say, taper it towards the back, I'm real careful and cut into these continuous strands of carbon like this. So all I'm trying to do is show you some more techniques here. What we are going to do is we're going to make sure that's oriented vertically. I actually have a strip that's popped loose along there like that. But there we go. So it's okay for it to be a little floppy side to side vertically, you still want it nice and stiff. And that's the one thing to watch out for. Anyway, that's that. So let's continue. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check. Alright, so the flaps are a little gooey. Alright, we'll come back in just a minute. Okay, so we are back. We'll turn this one over. Now we are going to go ahead and we're going to put in dihedral in our wings. So we're going to bevel these wings very, very slightly, just so we can get a good joint. Make sure that you don't round them off like I just did. That looks good. Now find your dihedral gauges. Some of you who've done this type of thing before will be saying, oh well, I want to put one under each wing, so like that. I actually like to glue these together. So you ask, why do you supply them this way? Well, it actually allows us to use up less wood. We only have so much scrap wood around. These are generally made from more or less scrap wood. We don't waste anything here. Alright, so take one of your wings and find something heavy like that and weigh it down. And it's okay that it flexes the flaps back up a little bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set this one under here like so, but we're going to put glue on it first. And try not to be clumsy like me. Now, the thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your leading and trailing edges line up with each other, and you get something like that. I have this stuff called kicker. CA accelerator is another term for it, and it is useful for making the super glue harden instantaneously like that, so that now this guy is fully assembled and that flap is not curving down as well as the other one. You can actually rub these along the table here and get that pretty curvature, because you want these to curve down slightly. I don't know how much that shows up on the camera. So they taper from flat out here to down. And you don't want a whole lot, just that little bit that you see there is generally regarded as enough. So set our tail and all that over there. Now we're going to come over here and get this fuselage pylon. Some of you may prefer other ways of doing this that are maybe a little more precise. But basically all I'm going to do, I'm going to take this fuselage pylon, the sharp angle here, this is the front, the back, this actually is tapered. what we're going to do is we're going to set this down over here to my documentation, and wing leading edge goes 5 inches back from the nose. This is my tapered end. So what I'm going to do is set this next to my ruler. Find the 5-inch mark. And on it goes. So there we go. Now, stop that. Now what I can do is sand a little laser burrs off of there, and set this on, and you want to line this dihedral line up at the center with the pylon and the rest of the fuselage and so on, so that the wing is on straight. It's very important to be straight this way. The tilt to one side or the other, we can always correct for that. It's easy to correct for. Mine is actually curling back up a little bit in the back. So I'm going to squirt some glue in here to force that. And then we'll hit it with the kicker, and now it'll stay. Alright. And I've glued myself to it. There, we'll be right back. Okay, the last thing is that we show about 0.625 inches on the back, so 5/8 of an inch. Just some amount. You want as little as you can get away with, because that just gives you that much more tail moment arm. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just smear some glue along here. And I'm going to drop this in. Mine's closer to a 1/2 inch sticking out the back. And now we want to make sure while we do that that the wing angle is held correct. So and put a little bit of accelerator on there because it's taking its time. And there we go. So all that is left now is put our nose on this airplane. So get out that part that your wing sheets came from, and we're going to snap this guy out with its cutesy little slot. And we're just going to slide this in. You want this fairly straight up and down relative to the rest of the airplane. Squirt some CA in there. You don't have to be super worried about not using too much, because it's up front. You're going to need a little bit of ballast anyway. The main thing is make sure it's lined up in this direction. I do have mine tilted a touch, which is kind of annoying. There we go. And I'm going to squirt a little more CA in here. You don't want this thing pulling off. Now, if you have one of the early kits, the fuselage is going to be thick enough that you'll have to sand off a little on the sides, because what we're going to do is, if you remember from your thinner sheets, you have these little side plates for the nose. And these just secure it on a little bit better. So we're going to squint this in. You can hear my child in the background with hiccups, which probably means he's going to start screaming again because babies hate having the hiccups, and they have them all the time. Alright, there we go. So the nose is completed. You can sand this off nice and round, however you want to do it. But we'll be right back. We're going to balance this and we're going to show you some basics of how to fly it. Okay, so we're back. This is a J&H Aerospace glider balancer. This is my old one, my tattered old one that I got too greedy with and crashed. Alright, so what I'm trying to do here is show you where the CG was for this one, which is basically right about an inch out here. It's basically right at the flap lines. So let's see where this one balances out for the moment. Yeah, he's a bit tail heavy. So let's give him some clay, because he's balancing out over the flaps. Should not take much. So I put a dab of glue here and then put a little wad of clay on. Still balancing a little. Pretty close. I think you can use just a tiny bit more. Yep. Alright, so with that set up, take your catapult handle, and because the rules are really specific about not letting the catapult rubber come off, one thing you can do is you can take a razor blade and you can roll this back and forth to get 2 grooves here. And then you can come in here and you can snap this off in such a way that you get a little groove that the rubber band lays into. And there you go. Now take this, and I recommend about really just about a 4-inch loop of maybe 5 inches, like that. And we'll give you enough extra that you can cut another one if some horrible issue arises. Take this, tie a second knot in it. And then you can come in here, grab this. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick my fingers through, I'm going to wrap this around, bring them together, and slide that over. And now, all I have to do is slide that guy onto my catapult handle, and now I have my catapult. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to give this a test glide real quick. That was a decent looking glide. Pulled a little bit to the right, which is not a bad thing. I just don't know why it's doing that. But it looks fairly happy, which is what you want. So now we're going to take it outside and we're going to try and fire off a couple launches. Okay, so it's dark out here. We're just going to try and we're going to give you a little bit of something. So one of the things you want to start out with is taking this glider and you just throw it forward nice and hard. And I ran it into the fence. We'll be back in a second. Okay, so the aircraft hooked off that direction. So your instinct would be to bend this down. do not do that, because it'll have the opposite effect. What you want to do is come into the inboard section and deflect it down that way. And so now I have some right roll trim. Now we're going to give it a little bit of right rudder. Hopefully this will give us a better pattern. Indeed, it did. Except now the airplane pitched up. So we're going to bend in some more right rudder. Same effect. So now I'm going to give it a little bit of nose down trim. I'm bending the trailing edge of the stab down slightly. And it's trying a little better. I'm still not getting that nice right turn, so I'm going to bend some more right rudder in. It can take quite a bit on these. And there we go. Alright, back in a second. Alright, I'm going to try to show you a correct launch, because this thing is ready to do it. So, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but we're going to try it. So I've got the airplane tilted over to the right, like that, and away it goes. And so what you saw is the aircraft pitched up, started going off, and then stalled. So it needs more right rudder. So we'll be back in a second. Okay, we're going to try and get one last shot off here. So there it goes and hooks into a perfect glide, and it's up on my roof. Okay folks, questions, comments, put them in the comments section below. Do watch the other video, the demo video, so you can see a little more of what you're looking for with these, because this is terrible lighting. And y'all have a great day. Bye.